everyone, it's Affy, and today I am here to do my May wrap up. I read 6 books in May, so I really did not get through pretty much any books at all. I was very distracted in May. The first half of Bridgerton came out and I was distracted. So I did not get through as many books as I had hoped to get through, but I still enjoyed the ones that I did get through. I had pretty much almost all 4 stars with the exception of 1 5-star book. So pretty good reading month. The first book that I read for May is actually Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, just because I wanted to read the book before the series came out. For Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, if you've seen the show, you probably already know what it's about. We've got Colin, we've got Penelope. They've been friends since they were kids. Penelope is good friends with Colin's sister, Eloise, and she's always had a crush on him. Colin had made a statement saying that he would never marry her, and, she kind of felt bad about it, but she, snapped back at him like, well, I would never marry you either. But this book is years in the making. So they meet when she's, I think, 16. And this book is 12 years later. So she's 28 and he's like 32 or something like that. And they start spending more time together and he starts to realize that he has a thing for her. And this goes down the path about Lady Whistledown. So there's a lot of talk about Lady Whistledown in here. If you haven't seen the show, if you haven't read the book, I'm going to spoil it for you. Penelope is Lady Whistledown. Things get very interesting when he finds out that she's Lady Whistledown. He's a little bit jealous of her because of it. My main issue with this book, so I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. My main issue with the book is just the way Colin acts sometimes. There were a few times where he would grab her and kind of just haul her off. While they were talking, he'd be upset and he'd grab her hand and just kind of drag her away. There were a few times where he'd be thinking to himself, I'm so mad at her, I'm going to kill her when we get home. And I'd just be like, that's a bit excessive. I know this is in his own head that he's thinking this, but isn't that a little bit excessive? Once they kind of got past the Lady Whistledown stuff, he calmed down. He was way more affable, way more kind. But during the Lady Whistledown stuff, he's just kind of a dick. And like I said, you come to find out that, he's got some jealousy issues around her being Lady Whistledown. I really, really love the family in here. It's one of the things I kind of missed a little bit in the show. There's a lot more scenes of the family. Hyacinth is hilarious. She's so funny. I love her character in this book. I know a lot of people really talk about the mirror scene as far as the show goes. There is no mirror scene in this book. In fact, the sex scenes are kind of laughable. I don't like Julia Quinn's sex scenes. I think the only book that I enjoyed any of the sex scenes out of her books was When He Was Wicked, which is my favorite book in the Bridgerton series. Not because of that, but it's just her sex scenes are not written well, to me at least. It was laughable. Aside from that, I do still enjoy the book. I enjoy this story. I've enjoyed the show so far, so all things said, in the end, it's all going really, really well. So 3.5 stars. I did enjoy myself. It was nice to do a reread and just kind of refresh my memory on everything. The next book that I read is by Sherry Thomas. This is Beguiling the Beauty, and this is a new to me author. And I really enjoyed this one. I gave this one 4 stars. We've got Venetia and we've got Christian. He is the Duke of Lexington. And Venetia is in America with her sister and her sister-in-law, and they go to to see a convention, and he happens to be a speaker there, and he talks about this woman that he fell in love with at first sight, and as he's giving like the details about this woman, she starts to realize he's talking about her. He's making all these assumptions about this woman and saying like, yeah, she was beautiful, but she was horrible to her husband, and she treated him awful, and the guy ended up killing himself, and so she clearly wasn't that great of a woman, and beauty doesn't, make up for the fact that a person might not be great on the inside. And so she decides she wants to get revenge, and she books a room on the same ship that he's going on to go back to England. And she decides she's going to hide her face, so she wears a veil everywhere on this ship. And she speaks in German so that nobody will know who she is. She even gives like a fake name and everything. And turns out that he knows German. So he kind of propositions her. She at first says no, and then she changes her mind. She's like thinking about it. She's like, maybe this could be part of me getting back at him. So she's able to convince him that he's never allowed to look at her face. When they do sleep together, she makes him wear like a handkerchief around his eyes. He never asks her like why she doesn't want him to see her face. He's just kind of like, okay, well, if that's what you want, then I won't look at your face. So they end up having this entire affair on this ship on their way back to England, and he starts to really fall for her. And so when she realizes that he's starting to catch feelings, she decides she's going to try and get off this boat at the next stop. She's not even going to wait until she gets back to London. Like, she's getting off at the next stop. And he catches her as she's leaving, and he begs her. He's like, will you marry me? Like, I don't care who you are. I love you. And she's just like, no, I can't do that. And so he begs her. He's like, look, in 2 weeks, meet me at this restaurant and we can talk about it. And so she agrees, just so he'll let her leave. And when the 2 weeks show up, she doesn't show up to this restaurant. And this poor man, I felt so bad for him. He had been so excited. He had had the restaurant like make all this fancy food, and he got them to make like an ice sculpture and do like all this sweet stuff. And she never shows up. He just gets so upset. And so he decides he's going to try and find her. This one was a lot of fun. The writing in this is really good. I really like Sherry Thomas's writing. It's very smooth, and so there's that. She has this thing for bones. She's very into archaeology. And so he actually gets like a dinosaur bone that he found and like gives it to her. And she like takes it home with her, and then she ends up returning it back to him, and this poor man is just so gutted by the fact that she gave him back the dinosaur bone. He just like, this man damn near cried when she returned the dinosaur bone to him. This was good. I gave it 4 stars. Like I said, I really enjoyed myself, and I really do like her writing, so I plan on reading more of her stuff. So the next book I read was by Lisa Kleypas. This is the 4th book in the Ravenel series. This is Hello Stranger. And this book is about Ethan Ransom and Dr. Garrett Gibson. Dr. Garrett, she is the only female doctor in all of England, and she's actually based off of a real woman, which I thought was really cool. But she's the only female doctor in all of London, and obviously a lot of people don't trust her at first. They think that a woman isn't capable of being a doctor and she's too feeble-minded. So she goes to the poorer parts of town every Tuesday to go work with people who can't afford to see the doctor. And she has this feeling like somebody's been following her every time she's out there, but she's she's not been able to really prove it. And so one day she's being attacked by these three men, and while she's attacking one of the men, she hears some sounds. She kind of turns around, and two of the other men have already been taken out. And she's like, what the heck? Like, I didn't even touch them. And so then she realizes, okay, somebody really is following me. And she's finally able to get him to come out, and it turns out it's Ethan. They have met each other before, once or twice, in I can't remember which book, but they have met each other. I think in Reese Winterbourne's book, actually, because he had like stalked her and Helen at one point, while they were out in the poorer parts of town. And so she has met him. She knows who he is. And she's just kind of like, why are you following me? And he's like, I got to make sure that you're okay. You're in this part of town, and you're a woman, and it's scary out here. And she's like, I can take care of myself. I have my little sword that I know how to fight with. And he's just like, that's cute. He decides that he's not going to stop following her, even though she asked him to. So he gives her a whistle, and he's like, if you need anything, blow this whistle, I'll be there. It's her birthday. And so he decides he's going to take her to the market and show her around. And they have this beautiful day together. He offers to help train her to protect herself, because he's worried about her after she's been attacked in the middle of the street. He's like, you need to learn other ways of protecting yourself. He's a spy, so he definitely knows how to fight. He ends up getting into some trouble, and she has to save him. And it's very fun. It's a fun book. I really, really enjoyed myself with this one. I ended up giving this one 4.5 stars. I love Garrett. I love Ethan. They're both such cool characters. Her, because she's a tough cookie. Like, she was willing to deal with all the sexism to become, the first qualified female doctor. In fact, I think after she got qualified, they went and made a law that women couldn't be doctors after that. And this was true story. Like I said, that part of it is a true story. The scene where he teaches her how to fight is just so sexy. Like, these two they're getting pretty handsy with it, because obviously he's trying to show her like all this physical ways to like stop people from hurting you, and they're getting super handsy, and it's getting super hot and sexy. And I was just like, whew. When he thought he was dying, he gives this beautiful, beautiful speech to her. And, when he wakes up and realizes he's still alive, he's like, you weren't supposed to hear all that. That was my deathbed confession. And I just thought that was really sweet. This one was good. I really enjoyed this one. I had a lot of fun with this one. So yeah, 4.5 stars. I'm really enjoying this series as a whole. It's been so good. So I see why people love this series. It's so much fun. The next book that I read is by Eva Leigh, or Lee, I'm not sure. But this is From Duke Till Dawn. This is part of the London Underground series. And this book is about Alexander and Cassandra. And Cassandra is a swindler. She basically finds a mark and finds a way to lie and get money out of that person. And so she does this with men, where she'll basically say like, oh, I'm in this situation, I need money to get out of it. And then she'll get the guy's money, and then she'll disappear. And so she meets Alex and does this to him. But it's over the span of like 2 weeks. And so they spend these 2 weeks together. She finally gets the money out of him, and then she disappears. And it's been 2 years. He finally sees her again at a gambling den. And he's basically like, oh my God, I found this woman. I've been looking for her for so long. And he can't believe his luck. She really likes him, but she's freaking out that he'll find out kind of who she is or what she does. And so she's hoping that, he'll leave her alone, but of course he doesn't. He shows up the next day, and she happens to be talking to her business partner about kind of how she knows Alex and how she swindled him, and he overhears. And so he's extremely upset with her. He's basically like, I never want to see you again. I can't believe you did this to me, yada, yada, yada. The next day, as she's going to go meet with her business partner, she realizes he's gone and he's taken all the money that they've made with him. This gambling den was supposed to be something they did for like a month, like a flash in the pan kind of thing, and then it would be over. Well, it's only been like 2 or 3 weeks and he's ran off with all the money. And so she, being the other half of this gambling den, because she put her money into it, he put his money into it, they're basically the ones running this club, obviously with some backing from other people, but they're the ones running this club. And he runs off with all the money. So her being the one left behind, everybody's upset with her. The staff are freaking out because they're thinking they're not going to get paid. The investors somehow find out, and so she's in a shitload of trouble and she doesn't know where to go. So she goes to Alex and she's basically like, look, I know you're upset with me, but I'm in this situation. I don't know what else to do. And at first he's like, I don't want to help you. Like, I don't really care. But she's able to convince him, and he pays all the staff so that they at least get paid. And then he's like, I can't really help you with the rest of it. I'm not going to pay back all these investors for you. So she's like, can you at least try and help me find this guy who stole all the money? And so the rest of the book is them basically going on an adventure, trying to find the guy, her business partner who stole everything, and restore all the money to everybody else. This one was interesting. It was a very interesting premise. Their adventure was fun. I did enjoy it. They met some interesting characters along the way. I'll put it that way. There were some interesting folks that they got to meet on their journey. I do remember wishing that there had been like a prologue, because there wasn't a prologue to kind of how they met and everything like that. It just kind of started with them bumping into each other after the 2 years later. So it doesn't tell you what happened during the week, or it doesn't show you, I guess, what happened during the 2 weeks that they spent together. And I kind of wish that she had actually written that into the book, because I feel like it would have given more context, I guess. It would have made it more emotionally, like it would have drawn me in more emotionally, if I'd had the chance to actually see the two of them together during those 2 weeks. It was still good. It was still really good. Like I said, I gave it 4 stars, and yeah, I had fun with this one. So yeah. The next book that I read is by Vanessa Kelly. This is The Highlander's Princess Bride. And in this book, we have Nicholas, who is an earl, and we have Victoria Knight. And Victoria is the bastard daughter of the Prince Regent. He's got a whole bunch of byblos, like all over the freaking country, and she's one of them. But Victoria is working as a governess, and she is being kind of pursued by the uncle of the kids that she works for. She lives in the same home as her charges, and he gets very handsy with her all the time. He's constantly trying to touch her and approach her and trying to proposition her, and she's constantly like, no, leave me alone. I have no interest. And one day, the whole family is gone, with the exception of like staff in the house. It's just her and him, and he goes to actually try and rape her. And they are standing by the stairs, and she pushes him, and he falls down the stairs, and he dies. So basically, the family, the sister thinks that, it's her fault. She's actually murdered him on purpose, and she wants her to basically be thrown in jail. Victoria thankfully has a brother who's a magistrate, and he gets her off. And then he basically is like, look, I know this family. They live all the way in Scotland. I think it'd be a good idea for you to go stay there with that family, be a governess for the sons there, and it'll get you out of here, and hopefully kind of everything will die down. So she goes to Scotland and she meets Nick. She meets Nick and his family. He's the Earl, but he has 6 brothers, and most of them are adults, but he's got one brother who's still a teenager. He's like 14 or 15 years old. And he's trying to convince her to not only help his youngest brother, but to kind of teach his other brothers how to be just more, what's the word I'm looking for? He's trying to teach, he wants her to teach them how to be less wild, I guess. They have no manners, they're kind of uncouth, and he wants her to basically kind of teach them to be more mature, if that makes any sense. And she basically meets these guys and meets their grandfather, and she's like, no, I'm not doing it. And so he has to basically beg this woman, like, please, I need the help. I haven't been able to keep any governesses before. I haven't been able to keep any governesses, and my youngest brother really really needs the help. So she's like, you know what, I'll help your youngest brother, but I'm not doing anything for your other brothers. They can figure shit out on their own. He's finally like, okay, fine, I'll take it, whatever it takes. I need some help. I need a woman's touch in this house. And so she stays to work with his youngest brother, and of course things start to happen between the two of them. And in the meantime, his brother shows up, his second younger brother. Something had happened to his son, and his son died. And this brother, he felt like caused his son to die, was the reason that his son died. And so he had banished his brother for like years. And so his brother shows back up and is begging for his forgiveness. And he gets really, really upset the night his brother shows up, and he goes and he drinks a whole ton. And they're all trying to get him out of this room. He won't come out. And so they send her in through the window, and he's drunk as a skunk, but he still makes sense. Like, he seems so lucid, but he's been drinking like bottles and bottles of alcohol. And she's basically like, I don't want to take advantage of you. And he's like, you should be worried about me taking advantage of you. They make out a little bit, and they end up sleeping on the floor together because he passes out. Well, the next morning they wake up, and the rest of the family is finally broken into the room, and they find the two of them laying on the floor together, and they're basically like, uh-oh, you guys are gonna have to get married. And she refuses. She's like, absolutely not. I'm not going to get stuck with you guys like permanently. I'm not doing that. He has to basically beg her again to marry him. And this one was a lot of fun. I think I really like Vanessa Kelly as a writer. Her stories are just so entertaining. And of course, the whole murder issue comes back to bite her in the ass. So that's a problem. But this family is just so fun. The granddad is hilarious. He hates British people. So he's always talking about these damn Sassenachs, and I don't want a Sassenach to come in this house and try to teach my grandsons how to be anything other than the Scots that they are. And he's just not happy with her being there, especially in the beginning. But she kind of grows on him, and he finally gets over it, but he gives her a really hard time. And this is just a really fun book. So Victoria had like all these reasons that she didn't want to marry him. And like once he would talk her out of one reason, she'd have like another reason. And it was just like, girl, just say yes. Like at a certain point, it was like, she just constantly would turn him down for everything, and it was like pulling teeth for him to get her to say yes to anything. I had a lot of fun with this one. Like I said, I gave this one 4.5 stars. Really, really love the writing style. Really, really love Vanessa Kelly's stories as a whole. And so I'm looking forward to going back and reading the rest of this series. So the last book that I read in May is by Sarah McLean. This is The Rogue Not Taken. This is part of the Scandal and Scoundrel series. This is the first book in that series, and this book was a lot of fun. So we have Sophie and we have King, who is a Marquess, but he is in line to become a duke. His father is a duke. And Sophie is part of a family that just recently became titled. Her father became titled as like an earl or something like that, and everybody thinks that he might have paid money to the crown to get this title that he has. And so people don't respect them. They don't have an old title from like decades and hundreds of years. And so nobody takes them seriously. They basically think like this family has no class. They don't know how to act like true high class society women. She's got a whole bunch of sisters. It's all girls. And so people don't take them seriously. And her sisters do act a mess. Like they take that whole mentality that people have about them and they run with it. And so they're always in the news about all kinds of silly things that they're doing. And she's considered the boring one because she doesn't ever get in trouble. But one day they're at a party and her brother-in-law is having an affair with someone right there at the party. And she approaches him. She tries to tell him off. They get into an argument and she pushes him into a pond. And everybody at the party sees. And so she gets shunned. And she doesn't care about society's thoughts, what society thinks about her, but it really bothers her. And so she runs off to go home and meets King. She stows away on his carriage as a footman. She steals his footman's clothing and stows away on his carriage, thinking that, she'll find her way home on this carriage, and instead it leaves town. She's not trying to go out of town, so she eventually gets off at the inn that it stops at, and she's thinking nobody's going to notice her because she's in a footman's outfit, but he realizes it's her immediately, and he's basically like, I don't know why you stowed away on my carriage, but you're not my problem. Like, I'm not taking care of you. I'm not sending you back home. Like, I'm not doing anything. You're going to have to figure shit out on your own. And so she does try and figure out a way to get home, and gets herself in a whole bunch of trouble, and he's there to save her, luckily. But she ends up hurt pretty badly, and he has to take care of her, and he's at first really upset about it. He's just kind of like, I had plans and you mess with my plans. But whatever, we're here. This is what it is what it is. And so she decides she doesn't want to go back to London. Her family lived out in the country when she was a child before her father became titled. And so she'd like to go back to that country town that they lived in and go back to that home. And so he's like, you know what, fine, I'll take you there. But she gets there and realizes she doesn't actually want to be there. And so she's like, now I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. And so he has to jump back in again and save her again. And it's an interesting story. She gets annoyed at the fact that she's considered the boring one. She's like, I'm fun. I do fun things. Look at me. I'm doing this. I ran away, like I got myself in this situation. This is pretty adventurous. I'm not boring. And she just Yeah, she's an interesting character. King has this whole thing against his dad. There's a woman that he loved as a child, and he feels like his dad kind of took this woman from him, and so he doesn't like his father. There is a little bit of a third act breakup in here, but it doesn't, it kind of makes sense, I feel like. I'm not big on third act breakups, but I feel like in here it was done pretty well. Their relationship is very, it's very fun. He's a bit of a dick to her in the beginning because he feels like she's just trouble, you know. He's gotten her in a bit of a situation and he feels like she's just causing him all this trouble. He's kind of mean to her and the things that he says to her, and he eventually starts to feel really bad about it. And you know, once he realizes he has feelings for her, he's like, I wish I could take back all the mean things that I said to you. This one was good. This one was fun. I gave it 4.5 stars. Or no, this one I ended up giving 5 stars to. So this was my one 5-star read for the month, and I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to reading the rest of this series. I think this is the one that has The Day of the Duchess, which is the book that I'm really looking forward to reading in this series. But I mean, it started out on such a high note that I'm just looking forward to the full series as a whole now. So yeah. All right, it's gotten dark outside and I need to go. So if you've made it to the end of this probably very long video, go ahead and leave me a crown emoji for The Princess Bride. Leave me some comments. Let me know if you've read any of these, what you think about them. Like I said, I had pretty much all 4, 4.5, and then 1 5-star. So pretty good reading month, I would say. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.